shouldn't be funny. You may recall a few reviews back that I named James Wan as the Steven Spielberg of horror cinema, and I still stand by that assessment. Not only is he the master of creating chilling, suspenseful environments, but he's also really good at putting out really good horror scripts. Which is all the more baffling when you consider today's film Lights Out, which he didn't direct, but he produced, because it's like 2/3 of a good movie, with the 1/3 negative part being the script. Which isn't to say that the script is awful, it's just to say that it feels very half-baked. No, not like that. The story follows a young woman played by Teresa Palmer, whose younger brother is having difficulty sleeping, and we soon discover why. Turns out their mother is all kinds of crazy and has been talking to a mysterious woman in her room. Later on, it's revealed that this is actually the ghost of a dear departed friend of hers who only appears in the dark and is afraid of the light. Wow. A ghost story in which the ghost only appears in the dark and is afraid of the light? I have never seen that before!
She won't come in the light.
Who?
You know who.
Stay in the light, we stay alive.
Darkness falls. The evil that haunts every dark corner of your mind.
You're only in my mind. Only in the dark. My friends are right. You aren't real.
I'm real enough to finish you.
Lights out, Slade.
Ever! Okay, all kidding aside, yes, I still stand by the argument that originality stems from the presentation, not from the content, but on the other hand, it also can depend on the content itself. But that's a discussion for a different time. Now, starting with the good things of this film, and there are actually more good things than bad things, on a technical level at least, it is pretty damn good. The cinematography is great, the editing is fluid, the acting is particularly strong, especially from the young boy. It gets a whole bunch of good points for relying mostly on practical effects rather than CGI, and it gets a lot more bonus points for having a boyfriend character who is not a complete one-dimensional jackass. Seriously, you have no idea how great it is to have a horror film that actually has a boyfriend character who is a completely good guy for once. Now, unfortunately, all that goodness is severely dragged down because of a bad script. Understand, it has nothing to do with its concept or its presentation. It has everything to do with its execution of the presentation. It constantly hints at things that could be deeper, more interesting, but it never goes there. It blatantly throws its themes and ideas in the audience's face as opposed to being more subtle, therefore more interesting. And it commits the worst sin that any horror movie script can ever commit. It's not scary. And the main reason it's not scary is because the ghost of the film, which is the main focus point, becomes significantly less scary because the script opts to reveal the ghost's backstory twice. And anyone will tell you the less you know about the horror film's antagonist, the more scary that they are, because they're more mysterious. Now, you could argue that there are still certain aspects of the ghost that the film doesn't really reveal, but still hints at, but because you know the full backstory and its relation to the family already, it's less interesting because what else is there to try to figure out? And because of that, the film suddenly falls into the dreaded jump scare trap, where it takes every opportunity to throw a jump scare in your face because, unfortunately, that's all it has left to do. Now, to be fair, it at least uses the jump scares somewhat properly because the jump scares are mostly emanating from an actual threat, i.e. the ghost, as opposed to most other horror films that throw jump scares from any and all directions, and that makes them less scary. So while it doesn't completely improperly use a jump scare because they're mostly emanating from the ghost, it still loses points for having the jump scares appear way too often. My biggest problem with the script actually was the fact that it kept suggesting that it was gonna have an interesting twist or revelation coming up later on, or do something different in terms of the origin of the ghost, or better explain how this particular spirit worked, which might have still made the ghost less scary, but also might have made it more interesting and therefore more scary depending on the certain direction they could have gone. But instead, they just never did. So in conclusion, my recommendation for this film is threefold. One, if you want to watch a recently released piece of media that is genuinely scary, very well written, extremely well performed, and feels like a great piece of honest nostalgia, watch Stranger Things on Netflix. It's like the love child that Steven Spielberg and Stephen King never had. 2, if you want to watch a film that has basically the same antagonist, i.e. a ghost appearing in the dark and is afraid of the light, but has a much stronger, more interesting script, watch Vanishing on 7th Street. And 3rd, if you don't care about the sloppy script and are more interested in laughing at the absurd amount of jump scares, because unfortunately it does generate more laughs than scares, then I suppose you can give it a shot. Ladies and gentlemen, I am The Norm. Thank you all for watching.